Humans of the Cardboard, we are on the precipice of the next Yu-Gi-Oh! Structure deck getting announced. We don't have a date or any confirmation that it's going to happen, but last year, the Blue Eye Structure deck got announced on May 13th, which is about 2 weeks away from now. So I want to make a video talking about kind of my expectations and just kind of what my thoughts are on what archetypes actually have a chance of getting this structure deck, because let's face it, a structure deck is maybe the single best thing a an archetype can get. Right? It's 8 brand new cards normally, and because it's all condensed into all this product is basically a new wave for one archetype. If Konami wants it to sell, they got to make those cards good. So they generally end up being really good as well, and it's great. On top of that, we're coming off of the Blue Eye Structure deck, like I said, which is one of, if not the most successful structure decks Konami's ever had. I have to imagine them combining the most popular monster from Yu-Gi-Oh with also executing the support really well and making it a legit tier one deck has to be a marriage of perfect, you know what I mean? Like of perfect any whatever, but like it just it's perfect for them, and it allowed this thing to kind of hit every player a little bit, right? Even if you're a competitive player that doesn't care about the anime, you're like, well, this deck's just good, I might just want it anyway, right? So it gets everybody. Looking at the past couple of years and some of the structure decks they've chosen, or at least the archetypes they've chosen, you go anime deck, but also a structure deck R deck, even though it wasn't officially a structure deck R. For them, Blue Eyes was next in line. So I think the next archetype in line is very interesting because they also confirmed Masked Heroes, which would have been the second archetype in line. So now we're kind of like, oh, what was that one in between? Because like they skipped one. Now that one's probably going to get support. So Structure Deck R slash anime, Structure Deck R for Fire Kings, anime for Jack Atlas and Red Dragon Archfiend. Trap Tricks is just a fan favorite archetype. It's not anime related in any way or anything. It's just people really like Trap Tricks, so Konami wanted to just give them a good wave, and so they did. Structure Deck R for Dark World, anime deck for Crystal Beasts, and then of course Albaz Strike, which is just a lore support archetype, which we will talk about there. So let's jump over to this tier list. This is the list of about 23 archetypes, I think, where I think they have a chance to get selected here. I know there's a lot of other big name archetypes that are not on here, but the reason they're not on here is because they've either gotten like a big wave of support in the last couple years, or they're just not popular enough. Like it could have just been like, there's a lot of archetypes that need support, that need a structure deck. They're just not popular enough. You know what I mean? So I just don't think Konami would want to follow up one of their most successful structure decks ever with like kind of a lame duck, Aqua Actress structure deck. Sorry, Aqua Actress fans, not trying to flame you here, but I don't think it really makes sense for them after seeing how successful a structure deck can be with that formula of like super popular and competitively viable. That's what we're looking for. So let's start off here at the bottom here with the lore themes. Okay. Magistus is currently the OCG story's main focus still, so I think it's possible something like Spellbook or Invoked could end up with a structure deck. I think Spellbook would make more sense because they really need to round out like the monster lineup and maybe some extra deck tools for them. Invoked, they could expand it if they wanted, but I just don't know if they do. It's just a little weird because like it's all right now, it's all Magistus focus, and there's been like a little other side support that branches off and helps some of these other archetypes, but not really name support. So I don't know if they do a full-on structure deck for one of these, but it's worth mentioning. Dogmatic is interesting because they're about to get their animated short in the next couple of months. They're already going to get support, though, in a core set, I think Konami has kind of already hinted at. So I don't think it's like super likely, but I think the timing is at least interesting. I just don't think they do it while we're right next to the recent announcement of the most recent like new lore based around this character, Medius. This one I actually think is very likely. I'm going to move this up to the most likely to me. Um, Listen, we saw it with Albaz. We saw it with Albaz when they were early on. They were revealed in the first archetype of the lore, which was Dogmatica initially, but Albaz was revealed with them, and you're like, that's weird. That card doesn't even really work with this archetype, but it is a card that's pretty good. And we're like, that's weird. And then what happened? What happened was they then printed a structure deck all based around Albaz and gave him his own archetype, and it was immediately meta, right? So I would not be surprised if they do the same thing here with Medius. They've already kind of shown that formula. Next up, you have the fan fave themes. There's a lot of fan fave themes that have either gotten support recently, aren't popular enough or whatever. These are some that I thought like made a lot of sense. And I skimmed the entire list of every archetype in Yu-Gi-Oh! These are the ones that kind of made any sense to me. I don't think any of them are particularly likely, especially the exclusives. So like Burning Abyss, Subterror, and Paleozoic. The non-Japanese like archetypes, or at least they didn't start there. Konami's just never shown love for these types of archetypes. I think they should, and I think if they did, I think they could do really well because they already have really good bases for their archetypes. So it wouldn't take much to make them really good and a good competitive structure deck. But I just don't think they're super likely. Konami's not really shown that they'd do that. Ninjas, I think, are cool. They already have kind of a base where they could work off with some of the other colored ninjas they've never shown before, even though they got support somewhat recently. So that's the killer on that. Um, Jesus, Inzectors. Inzectors are cool. They've already shown they're pretty popular with the winning that vote for the new card anyway. So that's cool for them. Grave Keepers are interesting, like kind of a fan favorite. It's sort of anime tied in, but not really. It's just like so stunny. I just don't know if Konami would want to make a full structure deck around to like a stun deck. So that's weird. And then Giria. Giria is like a past competitive deck that I'm still to this point shocked has not gotten support in so long. But like you know what I mean? I think this one could be cool. I just think at this point it would be kind of a dud to follow up Blue Eyes with something like this. Into the mid anime themes. And these are mid for a reason. I don't think they're 0% chances, but are they 0.1% chances? Maybe. I don't know. Goki. I just don't think enough people like Goki, but they need some support. They don't have Isold anymore. They don't have Gumblar anymore. They need some stuff. But I think they're more likely for a core set instead. Buster Blader, I think, could be cool, if not just for the fact that like you release a Blue Eye structure deck, it terrorizes the metagame. And then the next year you release a Buster Blader structure deck where his whole vibe is I shit on dragons. So now like the dragon comes through and terrorizes everything. Then the Dragon Slayer comes and saves the day kind of thing. I think that could be cool. Again, it's just not like a super, super popular anime theme. So it falls in this mid category. Ojamas are just too unserious to me. I just don't think Konami would see how successful the Blue Eye structure can be and follow it up with an archetype that's like more of a meme deck, right? So I just don't think they do that. Roids, I wish Roids would get good support at this point. I don't think they're popular enough, but they could use it and they should get it somewhere, but probably not here. Fluffle / Frightfur. This is a cool one because I actually think this one could almost fit in the fan fave themes because I think a lot of people like Frightfur / Fluffles, but I don't even think they like it because of the anime necessarily. I think they just like it because of the art design on the cards, that they're like creepy Toy Story-esque, like, you know what I mean? Like stuffed animals. But you know, I think this one could be interesting, but it's still not super likely. And then you get into the big anime archetypes. This is obviously where you're going to find a lot of your more likely archetypes. As we saw going down the list, it was like anime, structure deck R, anime. Like that's kind of how it went. So let's take a look here. Rose Dragons, I think, are pretty interesting. I think they deserve a big wave of support, whether it's, you know, a core set, being the cover of a core set, or somewhere else. I think they deserve it. I just don't quite see them getting it here. But I think they should get it. Similar to ninjas, they have a lot of like colors they could delve into with just different colored rose dragons. But that would be cool. They've never been their own archetype. They've always been just generic good cards in other decks. And I think it'd be cool to actually give them their own strategy. Harpies, I think at some point, but I feel like it's just a little bit too early from like, they've gotten little drops, right? They got the Harpies Pet Dragon, the new form of that. They got like Cyber / Harpy Lady a couple years ago. They've gotten little cards here and there. Hasn't really resulted in much change for them. But I feel like we're on like a year or two early on this one. On like we could see a big structure or a big wave of support for them relatively soon, just not yet. Neospatians. This one I put on here just if for no other reason than I keep having people say, why does Konami keep making hero support but not even acknowledging Neospatians? So, yeah, I guess they deserve it because they're pretty popular. Then we get to these big four at the end here. All four of these are going to go into the most likely category. Cyber Dragons. I know they just got 2 cards, and even prior to that, they got Clockwork Knight and a couple of other small things that don't really help them that much, but Clockwork Knight does. I know they just kind of got support. But this archetype was next up in the Structure Deck R series. And even if it's not technically a Structure Deck R series, this is still an archetype that, even though they got those 2 cards, those are the first 2 cards they've gotten in like 6 years, legitimately. And this is probably a top 5 fan favorite archetype. It should get more than that. I think this should be the pick. I think it's almost the most likely pick at this point, even with their recent support. I'm back on the Cyber Dragon Structure Deck train. I think this would follow up Blue Eyes beautifully, so well. I think this one would be sick. Red Eyes also has to be thrown in here. This would also be a really cool follow up to Blue Eyes. This archetype's also gotten like little sprinkles of cards recently, like the Primite engine helps them. Same thing with Blue Eyes though. There's like the what is that? The Metal Morph engine that's kind of like been solid for Red Eyes, stuff like that. But a full on structure deck, nobody would be opposed to that. A lot of people have been wishing for Cyber or for Red Eyes support somewhere. It could be a core set, but a structure deck would work just as well to get them finally in the public eye competitively. I think Magna Warriors makes sense, man. I've been saying it for years, and that's probably why it won't happen, because I've been saying it for years and nothing has really changed. But ABC got a 7-card wave last year. This archetype is supposed to be Yugi's equivalent to ABC's. And I think they have some solid cards. If you read the Electromagnet Warriors, they're kind of cracked. They just don't have a boss monster. They have no direction. They do all this stuff, and then they just don't end on anything. So give the deck what it needs. I think they could fix this archetype with like 5 cards, but 8 cards works even better. I'll take it. So I think this one actually does sort of make sense there. It's still a Yugi archetype, so they could kind of still tie that in and use Yugi as like a selling point there. I think it works. And lastly, Toons. I know this has Relinquished on here, but it's like a Toon custom art of Relinquished, a Toon version. I know this one still falls a little bit into that category of Ojama in terms of not being serious. I just think this archetype is just so much more of a fan favorite, right? It's from the original DM, and people love the art style of taking like classic monsters from Yu-Gi-Oh! And just making them chibi versions and work with the Toon archetype. I think that's such a cool like aspect of it. And they do have, and I think this archetype actually has pretty good cards. They have actually a decent amount of searchability. They have like some decent interruptive cards. They just don't have like a tie-in for the whole engine to make it work. So 8 cards, you can do a lot. And I think the combination of how popular this is and the tools they do have, they could come out with a pretty competent strategy with 8 new cards for Toons. They could take like Firewall Dragon and whatever, you know what I mean? Like they could take like main characters from later anime series, like their main boss monster, and like get them in the Toon form. There's no hero cards that have a Toon form, right? Like they could really expand on that and actually like really make a really cool wave for Toons. That would be really, really sick. So there you go. Those are my top 5. Those are the other archetypes that I think are like worth mentioning. I seriously skimmed the entire list of every archetype in the game multiple times, and most archetypes had either gotten support recently enough where I didn't think they made sense, getting a whole 8-card wave again, or they're just not popular enough. And I don't think Konami wants to follow up something as super popular as Blue Eyes and how successful that was with something that's just not that popular. I think they really want to like work off this momentum and keep it going with another really popular structure deck. So I think these kind of made more sense in that regard. Aside from this tier kind of is the epitome of not popular enough. But yeah. So there you go. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours down below. Do you think there's an archetype that maybe slipped through the cracks? Even though I looked multiple times, let me know if you think there's an archetype that maybe should also be considered here for this list. But these are my 5, man. And if I had to put my number 1, it's probably Cyber Dragon at this point. So if you're a fan, cross your fingers, because in the next couple of weeks, we very well could get our structure deck announced, and hopefully it's an archetype you like. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Thank you so much for watching. As always, guys, let me know your thoughts down below on this in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.